Hi. So I've decided that we're going to look at a grammar structure, and I think it's one of the most important grammar structures, in my opinion, because it's something we always do. We tell people about what we did in the past. We tell them stories about what happened or what we did last year or yesterday. So I'm going to take the past tense. Now there are three main past tenses, although there are others that we use to emphasize the past. But I want to look at the three forms: the past simple, the past continuous, and the past perfect. So let's take the past simple first. So what is the past simple? Well, the past simple is what we use to talk about actions that are completed in the past. So for example, this morning I woke up, I got up, I had my breakfast, I had a shower, I brushed my teeth, I got dressed, I tied my shoelaces, I left my apartment, I got into my car, and I drove here. So these are all actions in the past that are completed, they're finished, yeah? They're also habitual actions, things that I do every day, but in the past. What tense do we use for habitual action every day? Yeah, it's the past, the present simple. So if we think about the present simple for habitual actions every day, we can also use the past simple for habitual actions in the past. So when I lived in Barcelona, I went to the beach every day. So I don't go to the beach every day now, but in the past, when I lived there, that's something I did every day. So let's take a sentence. I brushed my teeth. Okay? So brushed is the verb, and what's this word? Yeah, it's called the subject. So we think of the form, we're using the subject, so if we think of how we want to form the past simple, we're going to take our subject, which could be I, you, he, she. It could be also an object. And we also take our verb in the past simple, so one step into the past. Now, the problem with the past simple is that some of the verbs are irregular. For example, brushed isn't irregular, so it's pretty easy. We just add ed to change the verb to brush, which is the infinitive, into the past, brushed. But there are some irregular verbs, and there is no rule for these verbs. For example, get, got in the past, leave, left in the past. So these are something that you have to sit down and study yourself and just learn them. So I advise that you get a list of all the past simple verbs, irregular verbs, and take 3, maybe 4 per day, depending on how you feel. Learn them and really try to use them. So either write them down in a story or in some sentences, or verbally use them speaking. Yeah? This is really the only way that you'll master your past simple irregular verbs. So let's look at the spelling of our regular verbs. They're a little bit easier. So some verbs, the majority of the verbs, like for example, brush or start, this is the infinitive, to brush, to start. And how we want to change them into the past, we're just going to add ed, and then it's the past simple. Yeah? There's also other verbs like live, because we have the E here, we're just going to add D. Now there's another verb ending in Y. We're going to take away the Y and we're going to add I-E-D. Now one verb that I know that is slightly against this rule is play. We just add ed for played. So we're really using this form to talk about completed actions in the past, things that are finished, and habitual past actions, things we did every day at a time in the past. Okay, so we've looked at the past simple, and now I'd like to look at the past continuous. So the past simple was a completed action in the past, something that's completely finished at the time of speaking. Yeah, I'm telling you about something that's over, that's finished. Similar with the past continuous, this action is over, but I'm not saying it was a short action, I'm saying that it was a long action, something that was in progress at the time that I'm telling you about. Okay? So I'll give you an example and it will help me to explain it a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to give you two actions. Because normally, well, it's very common for the past continuous to be interrupted by a past simple action. So we're telling you that something was happening in the past and I was interrupted by something else. So, my example. I was cooking when the phone rang. So we have two actions. I was cooking and the phone rang. Okay? The phone rang is a past simple action. It's completed, it's one single action, and we're using the irregular verb ring, which the past simple is rang. I was cooking is the past continuous action. Okay? So first, let's look at the form. So how do we form the past continuous? Well, this word, similar to the past simple, what did we say we called this word? That's right, yeah? It's the subject. So we have the subject and we have the verb, but this verb is different to the past simple. We have the verb plus ing. Now we also have something extra in the past continuous, which is different to the past simple. Yeah, it's the verb to be. Now what's very important about this is that the verb to be is in the past form. If the verb to be was in the present form, we then have the present continuous. So there's nothing about this structure that tells us that it's the past or the present, only the verb to be. So if we forget the verb to be, the listener doesn't know what time we're talking about. Is it now? Is the action happening now? Present continuous. I am cooking or I am teaching. I was cooking tells us that it's something that was happening in the past. So we're saying, I was at home, I was cooking, and oh, the phone rang. Yeah, I was interrupted by the phone. The structure can stand alone. It doesn't have to be interrupted. What were you doing at 3 o'clock yesterday? Think about it. What were you doing at 3 o'clock yesterday? It's probably an action that was in progress. Yeah? I was teaching. I was teaching a class yesterday at 3 o'clock. So it doesn't have to be interrupted, but this is a very common way of using the past continuous.